Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I had to put on my reaching hat. Hear me out. Alright guys, there are actually more pages that I didn't get to as in another post, so I'm adding them here. So these are the supplement notes, okay? So it says, Joseph lived at the blank address for approximately 1 year. Joseph said he lived with his mother, Zulema Pastenes. He lived with his mother so she could help him with his anxiety. Joseph did not attend a school and he was currently unemployed. Joseph said Alex recently moved into the house after his mother and Alex became engaged. Alex stayed in the same bedroom as his mother, and Joseph did not know Alex, but they had talked in passing. Joseph said he usually wakes up around 1400 to 1500 hours every day due to him staying up late. On 12/12/19, Alex was awake when he received a phone call from his mother. She asked Joseph to go check on Alex. She has never called Joseph and asked him to check on Alex in the past. Joseph did not know the reason why his mother asked him to check on Alex. The telephone conversation ended, and a few minutes later, his mother called him a second time. Joseph said she sounded serious when she asked him to just call the cops and told Joseph she was on her way home from work. Joseph knew the request had to be serious because his mother never left work early. Alex ran into the master bedroom and opened the closed door of the master bathroom. As soon as Joseph looked inside, he observed Alex was blank, lying on his right side with vomit coming out of his mouth. Joseph stated there was blank on the bathroom floor. Alex said he had to look away due to the smell. I wonder why they're saying Alex. I think they meant to say Joseph, right? Joseph immediately, I guess Alex was saying, I'm not quite sure, maybe Alex was talking. Joseph immediately called 911, and the 911 operator asked Joseph if Alex was breathing, and Alex told the operator Alex sounded like he was exhaling. Okay, I'm sure they meant to say Joseph told the operator Alex sounded like he was exhaling. Joseph looked at Alex's chest, but was unable to observe Alex's chest rise or fall as he was exhaling. Alex and Joseph were the only two in the house at this date and time. After my conversation with Joseph, I made my way upstairs, and then it's all redacted. And then it says Alex had been removed and was transported to Banner Gateway Hospital as I was arriving on the scene. More redactions. There were blank on the floor and on the outside of the bathtub. Small droplets of water and a yellow substance believed to be vomit were on the floor next to the toilet. No photographs of the inside of the residence were taken by this detective. And then they have an interview with her daughter, Cara Ono-Frighton. It says, the following is a summary of my interview with Cara. And then it's all redacted. Once I went back downstairs, I contacted Cara Ono-Frighton, who just arrived at the residence and claimed to be the daughter of Zulema Pastenes. She stated that she came to the residence after being called by her brother Joseph. Cara used to live at the blank house until Alex moved in. Cara stated in the past her mother has had numerous different male relationships in which they ended up living with them, and she did not want to go through it again, so she moved out. Cara did not know Alex, but knew he and her mother were engaged to be married. Cara and Alex had communicated in passing and did not have any in-depth conversations. Cara referred to Alex as being, quote, very religious, end quote. Alex moved into the residence around Thanksgiving 2019. Cara stated Alex's sister, Lori, and her mother had been good friends and attended the same LDS church. Cara called her mother and Lori preppers and explained preppers were preparing for the end of the world. It was the relationship between her mother and Lori is how her mother met Alex. Cara's mother and Alex knew each other before Alex moved to Idaho. Her mother planned on moving to Idaho to be with Alex, but it was ultimately Alex who decided to move back to Arizona to be with Zulema, obviously because the heat was on in Idaho. When Alex moved back to Arizona from Idaho, he brought his niece named Melanie with him. Melanie drove separate from Alex but stayed with the family at the blank address. Cara stated Melanie returned to Arizona from Idaho to pick up the remaining items she had left in Arizona. Once Melanie was finished, she drove back to Idaho. Cara does not know any of the other Alex's family members besides his sister, Lori, and his niece Melanie, because they were a group, also known as a cult. Once I completed my interview with Cara, I exited the residence and waited in the driveway until I was relieved by Detective Biggs. This concludes my involvement in the case. Okay, so here's another supplemental page. A lot of this stuff is a bit more detailed than what I said, so I'll skip this beginning part because I read it in my previous video. You can pause it if you want to. So here's an interview with Zulema at the hospital, right? It says, look at the interview with Zulema. Zulema asked me why she was being questioned and if she was considered a suspect in the death of her husband. I assured her she was not a suspect, but I needed information from her regarding what happened at her house when Alex was discovered. Zulema said she had been married to Alex for only 2 weeks and had known him for about a year. She rented the house they live in and she has lived there for about 2 years. Alex began having shortness of breath on about 12/6. He had traveled to Mexico on 12/7 to pick up some prescriptions for himself and Zulema. It was a single-day trip and he arrived back home in the evening. When he arrived home, their grandkids were at the house. Alex was playing with the kids and became easily winded. Zulema had never seen him react that way before. He was short of breath and had to sit down to take a break. He seemed to be struggling for breath. A couple of days later, he went into the kitchen to get a bottle of water and became winded and had to sit down. Zulema begged him to let her take him to urgent care. Alex refused and said he would be fine. He would become winded walking up and down the stairs. On the evening of 12/11, she again asked him to let her take him to the doctor, and he again refused and stated the doctors do not know what they're doing. I wonder if he offed himself after he did something to the kids. On the morning of 9/12, maybe 12/9 is what they mean, Alex was awake at about 1800 hours. I meant to say 800 hours. Zulema needed to leave for work. She was worried about him and asked him how he was feeling. He said he was fine and was feeling better. Zulema left for work. The next day, Alex said, this is the blessing over the phone. Okay, this is everything I had read before. And then we go down here where they talk about it. Okay, sorry guys. But I want to start here at this third paragraph. It says, Zulema was never aware of Alex having any medical issues. He always seemed healthy. He did not consume alcohol or drugs. She did not know any medical history for Alex, and she did not know anything about his family history. Alex was a truck driver who traveled a lot. He recently wanted to take some time off and moved to Idaho a few months ago. He had a niece and some friends there. The day before Thanksgiving, Alex arrived at Zulema's house in Gilbert to spend the holidays. Zulema asked him to stay with her and not go back to Idaho. She convinced him he could stay with her and he could get rid of his apartment in Idaho. He was thinking about going back to work for a former employer where he could work locally instead of driving so much around the country. Alex had not worked for a couple of months, but he had some money saved up. A couple of weeks ago, they took a trip to Las Vegas. I wonder if that money was life insurance. Took a trip to Las Vegas. While they were in Vegas, they decided to get married. It was not planned, and she referred to it as spur of the moment, and they eloped right at the same time as Melanie and Ian. Wow. I clarified with Zulema. Alex had gone to Algodones, Mexico to get the prescriptions. She said he had gone there before for prescriptions and told her about it. She had him get her some medicine because it was cheaper. And then there's a big part redacted. I clarified some time frames with Zulema for I wonder if those are the poisons that were being used. I clarified some time frames with Zulema for the events on 12/12. She said she left for work at about 8:50 hours. She texted Alex at about 12:58 hours and asked him to make a holiday basket for her. Alex responded, "Sure!" exclamation point. She texted him again at about 15:02 hours to ask him how he was doing, and he didn't respond. She received the text from blank. That's the person who prayed over him. Who knows who that is? Maybe Chad. Stating Alex was not doing well. She called Alex about 15:09 hours. She then called her son at about 15:15 hours. I asked Zulema if Alex had any visitors at her house. She said his niece came for Thanksgiving with her new husband, Ian, remember? They all spur of the moment coincidentally got married together. And she identified his niece as Melanie blank. Melanie lives in Idaho. She said Melanie came to her house and spent time at her in-laws' house before driving back to Idaho. I asked her about any siblings for Alex. She said he has 6 siblings but does not have much communication with them. She said she knows his sister Lori and his niece Melanie. She did not know where Lori lives. I asked her if she had a phone number for Lori, and she said The last time she tried texting Lori, the number was disconnected. Remember, Lori has like 60 burner phones. She had met Lori a few times before when Lori lived locally. She had not seen Lori since she moved a few months ago. She did not think Lori was married. Sorry, that's my husband's using the air compressor in the background. As I continued to ask questions about Alex's family, Zulema said she would text Blank to ask him because, quote, he's the one who knows more about that family than I do. Who is the male that she's texting who knows more about that family? She had asked Blank for any contact numbers for Alex's family. Blank texted her back and told her he did not have any numbers. She knew Blank lived out of state, but she did not know where. I wonder who that person is. Ian, Chad, somebody else? Clarifying with Zulema some details about the day, she told me she knew Alex had not been feeling well, even though he said he was. Alex usually makes the bed and cleans the house while she's at work. She noticed when she got home nothing was done as normal. The bed was not made, he was not dressed, and nothing had been cleaned. Zulema's son-in-law Jose arrived at the hospital and I stepped out of the room to make a phone call. Zulema suddenly came down the hallway with Jose. I told her we were going to finish up our investigation at her house. Jose interjected and told me I could ask questions to their attorney. They said they were going back to the house. I concluded my conversation with Zulema. I photographed the body as I found it, lying in a hospital bed with evidence of medical intervention. I did not observe any obvious trauma to the body. The lower extremities were covered under a blanket. I observed splotchy discoloring around the upper chest and neck, purplish in color. Their lividity was present on both sides of the abdomen and hands. I later assisted with a search warrant at Zulema's house. I assisted with scribing items seized as evidence, a copy of which was left at the house. This concluded my involvement in this matter.